very good morning to you. Welcome to K24 This Morning. My name is Mungana Mbuvi. It is a very fantastic and very interesting Monday. We'll be telling you all about that later on, why that is so bad. My name is Mungana Mbuvi.
Good morning. My name is Shiko Kaitani.
My name is Jeff Mote. Of course, on the news front, lots happened over the weekend, and we'll be discussing that as we get into our news super review this morning. Seems like most of the talk is about either what happened over the Kibra by-election. They had a Thanksgiving rally over the weekend, and also what this means because, as some people are saying, former PM stated this is the first step towards the BBI.
Yeah.
We don't know what the report has therein. It seems like he knows, and that's the first step. So we'll be talking about that. Of course, I'm joined by political and governance expert Dennis Tumbi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You said the spirit of the BBI can be seen even before we actually look at the document itself.
Absolutely.
Is that what we meant when we had
by the
from
actions
Raila?
And by the deeds of men shall you know their hearts.
Okay, as you hear him waxing poetic. He's here. Is
that in the Bible somewhere? Is that in the Bible or is it in the Quran?
No. That is Dennis chapter 1 verses 1. We are writing the book.
And we'll be talking about that, of course, and plenty more as we jump into our news super review this morning. But there's plenty more on the show as well.
Definitely. Right after Jeff Mote is done with the newspaper review, we jump into Interactive. And I shall be telling you about this gentleman who is a father. He didn't know he was a father, but now he's not only going to be a father, but a millionaire in the process. That's definitely coming through on Interactive.
Okay, and then in our final hour from 8 to 9, we jump into our social hour. And this time around, it is another session of healthy and, of course, health and wellness, rather, coming your way as we talk about diabetes care and management. The theme this year is family and diabetes, and actually talking about the impact that diabetes has on families and how to create a network and support those who are in the fight.
Okay, fantastic stuff. So all of you, welcome aboard. We know what you know at this particular point. Let us know how you are. You can tell us a big good morning. Tell us how the weekend was and what you're planning for this week, this Monday as well at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. The show starts right now. Monday, want to make sure you get to where you're going without the traffic snarl-ups that you usually get. That's why we'll start with our traffic update. Right after that, get into our news super review. Good morning.
Monitoring those roads via our satellite feed this morning. Let's see what things are looking like for you on some of those major routes. But of course, we cannot do this alone. We always do appreciate your feedback. Continue to be our eyes and our ears on the roads and let us know what's up. So as we kick things off from the Nairobi National Museum overpass, let's just back things up through Wayaki Way just to see how it is for you if you're coming from the sides, of course, of Mountain View, coming from Kangemi, the Laura Shore area. What are the roads looking like at this particular time? And here we are backing things up as far as Waroko and, of course, making my way to the Kangemi, Soko and Mountain View. I usually like to start things around Kabete and then work my way down. As you can see, so far, so good. Things aren't looking bad at all, which is surprising because usually we do know major routes like Wayaki Way, Thika Road, traffic already starting to pick up as early as 5:30 in the morning. And so this is a really good time for you to start heading out if you hail from these areas. And here you can see Kianda School, making my way down Waroko very quickly down past Nairobi School. And here we are at the ABC Junction in Kari, as well as this major route known as the Westlands Red Hill Link Road that actually sits between Kabete, Barracks, and of course Kari. So of course, as you can see, it is good news for you if you're going to be coming down Wayaki Way this morning. Nothing major to report as far as we know. This is fantastic news for you. Here we are even at Chiromo, making our way back to Museum, our focal point this morning. Okay, making my way very quickly to Thika Road, if you will allow me to do so. Here we are. This is the flyover at Pangani. Always a major area to take a look at, as because, you've got traffic all coming to this particular point from different roads. When you've got, of course, Thika Road, you've got Kiambu Road, and so far, what we are seeing via our satellite feed is that things are looking okay. So this is good news for you if you are around Pangani and, of course, making your way to the CBD through Ngara. It's good news for you as far as that particular point is concerned. But making our way past Utalii, let's see how Allsops is looking this morning. And of course, here we are at Garden City Mall and making our way up past Safari Park. So far, so good. We are not seeing any red lines, which is a good indicator, meaning that the roads are clear at this time. And it is fantastic news. Here we are at Roy Sambo. And just trying to back things up, I can see my map misbehaving at this point, but not to worry. We'll actually make our way very slowly to Allsops to see if we can make our way towards the sides of Juja Road. And so here we are right around the Ruaraka post. Here is Allsops. Okay. And so another major road to actually look at is Outer Ring Road every single morning. We do know how things can look like for those of you who are from this area of Kariobangi. Taking a look at Outer Ring very, very quickly, trying to make our way to another major road, which is Juja Road right there. So far, it actually looks quite okay. And here we are at the Kariobangi roundabout. Let me just zoom in slightly so we can take a look at Juja Road. So far, so good. We aren't seeing any red lines, which means, by the way, that is a good indicator. It's clear. And here we are at the Huruma Flats area. Here is the Moi Forces Secondary School. And here we are. Look at that windy road, Juja Road, looking actually fantastic at this particular time. And here we are at Mlango Kubwa, still making our way very slowly to Ring Road in Ngara. And as you can see, we are back at Pangani, and that is amazing if you ask me. And so even as we continue to zoom out, and hopefully we can make our way back to where we were, here we are at Globe Roundabout, which is right next to where we are, just next door. Here we are at St. Andrew's Church, and of course taking a look at some of our major roads right around now, right about now. Here is GPO, and of course let's make our way to Nyayo Stadium just to see what the CBD is also looking like at this particular time. So far, so good. This is Mombasa Road here, and here we are at Nyayo Stadium. So it is fantastic news for you this morning. You know, not expecting much on the roads a couple of minutes past 6 a.m. But you know what? Continue to let us know how things are looking like. Be our ears and, of course, and our eyes on the roads. Send us a tweet peek if you can at K24TV on Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, Twitter.
Welcome back. This, of course, is K24 This Morning. Looking at the big stories of the day right here. Time for your first look at your papers and what you'll be reading therein, of course, as the day progresses. We'll start off with the front page of the People Daily. Mount Kenya feels heat of Uhuru Ruto Cold War. After averting fears of protocol clash of president, his deputy holding separate events in Moranga, head of states keeps store of area, throwing local leaders into confusion. That's a big story right there. Also on the front page of the PD, we'll teach BBI opponents lesson, vow Raila and ODM. They say Kibra by-election outcome, pointer of things to come. That's a story that you can get in detail. Also covered therein, of course, on page 5 of your PD and on the front page as well. Population meeting kicks off in city amid homosexuality row. Church leaders threaten to convene parallel summit to counter forum's agenda on abortion and other divisive issues that may corrupt morals of the youth. They'd had a presser on this, spoke about the displeasure of that summit happening in Nairobi. We'll be touching on that, of course, as well right here on the show. Look at the front page of the Daily Nation. It's Ruto Raila in war of words over violence. After the vicious battle of the bedroom, Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga and their lieutenants trade accusations over the violence witnessed during the Kibra by-election. A gang on motorcycles believed to have been hired by an ODM politician has been blamed for what happened during that particular day. Rivals revisit the polls, one with chest thumping, the other with cries of foul play. Those are the details that you can get, of course, in your copy of the Daily Nation. Also, on the sporting section, joyriders to AFCON gobbled up millions in perks. Now we see the fact that Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa ferried dozens of his staff, including his personal assistant, to watch the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt, gobbling up millions of shillings of taxpayers' money in travel and allowances. You've got those details, of course, in your copy of the Daily Nation this morning. Front page of the Standard, it's all about the BBI. BBI keeps counties, reduces MPs to 210. Haji and the law-led team meet today for final preparations before handing over reports to President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, talking about the highlights of what the report should have right in there. And also, just a weekend after the interest rate caps were repealed, is this Kenya's greediest banker? The Standard asks. Until Friday morning, Shege Thumbi was just another banker in town, but an internal memo on the revised interest rates leaked, and Thumbi became an internet sensation for all that's wrong with the banking industry. Profit at all costs. It's a story that you can get in your copy of The Standard this morning. Front page of The Star. Raila unveils new alliance ahead of 22. Kibra win to impact BBI politics and the general election. ODM leader raids, as they say, Mount Kenya, Ukambani, and the Rift Valley as far as that's concerned. And finally, the front page of the Business Daily today. Mortgage defaults hit 38 billion shillings as auctions jump. Spike in property seizures as home defaults rise, fastest at 41% according to the Central Bank of Kenya data. The details of that found therein in your copy of the Business Daily. Lots to discuss, of course, from what has been happening over the weekend. I'll be doing all of that with my very able panel this morning. Let me introduce them as we get into the details of the day. Ruth Ambogo, Youth Policy Advisor. Good morning.
Morning.
Dennis Thumbi, political and governance expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Any relation to the banker we are about to talk about?
No way, we are related.
No?
Okay,
at least we've put that out of the way. It should have been an awkward moment right there. And of course, Nerima Wako, Director, Siasa, please, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, let's start off, of course, as always, we'll touch on the front page of the PD. We'll revisit this story later on the show as well. But Mount Kenya feeling the heat of Uhuru Ruto Cold War. As we saw, it was a fundraiser happening in a Muranga ACK church. They're expecting both the president and the deputy. This is an area that has had a lot of support and gave a lot of support to the president, of course, during his election campaign. But last minute, everything was there. The protocol had arrived. Everything was set in place. But the president did not come. He sent instead CS Matiang'i, CS Macharia, and Musheru for this particular function. The DP also didn't go. He sent the Senate Speaker, Alusaka. What are we supposed to read into this, of course? Because some people are saying this would have been the best time to not even, okay, fine, not mend the fence, but appear to mend the fence, Dennis. What went wrong?
I think essentially there's, first of all, good morning, viewers. There's a fundamental and ideological flaw in the politics of Central Kenya. And Central Kenya itself has been termed as the runaway bride with the DP. But essentially there's an adage that goes in Kikuyu, says, Jeshi Tingenu. It means that the army is displeased or they are not pleased. And I think there has been issues all across the double elections that we saw going all through, that there's a general feeling on the ground that the president has abandoned Central Kenya. And also, the phantom nature of the handshake and the conversations around BBI. Even before we get into the very pronounced presence of the DP in Central Kenya.
Right.
So there's a myriad of issues. And you remember also, in Muranga itself, the sons of Muranga have been harassed and arrested by police because of taking a different stand. So there's a myriad of issues that the president hasn't addressed himself as a political leader of Central Kenya. And you can't visit a home when you haven't done what it is that we call the meeting before the meeting. You know, putting the firewood together so then you can have a nice warming fire. So there's a number of issues that have been across the period of time. And also the presence of the deputy president, by the way. He has seemed like he's a guy who has stuck with us. And the president has run away with another elderly bride that Central Kenya don't understand.
Right.
So principally, there are fundamental and ideological issues that the voter on the ground, because whether they came or not, the issue that is addressed there is that actually the crowds refused to show up. Right. There was an issue, essentially, that the meeting, did not attract the requisite crowd. And when you see Christians ignoring you, what about the usual political lieutenants that you had on the ground? So the president needs to address these issues at the end of the day. The issues that say, You have ignored us, yet we fought for you the hardest.
Let me bring in Ruth on this as well, because we want to talk about those issues a bit deeper, dig a bit deeper on this particular issue. Is it political issues in a central province right now, or is it a development problem that the people feel they've been left out of the development agenda and are so feeling displeased at what they did?
If there are people who have always enjoyed development agenda in any government of the day, it has always been the Central Kenya people. Ever since before independence and after independence, development projects have always focused on Central Kenya. So the rest of the country has always felt left out. So for me, I feel that this is basically politics. But I'd want to take a different approach from what Ntumbi has just spoken about. I think for me, my approach would be that, you know, in Central Kenya, the army is totally different. Unlike other parts of the country where the army is the voter base, in Central Kenya, the army is basically a small community of elders who at the end of the day will decide who becomes the next king after Uhuru Kenyatta is left. You know, in Central Kenya, it is not the people who decide who will become the next leader. And unfortunately, this noise will pretty much not mean much, because at the end of the day, if Uhuru Kenyatta says, this is the person I'd wish to support for president for the coming 2022 elections, the Central Kenya people will back him up. So whoever he says he is supporting for president, they will back him up, regardless of their complaints at the moment.
But you've seen a lot of pushback from what has been happening, especially in that base.
Yes, we have. With
them saying that we want a PG meeting for you to come and address our issues.
Yes,
do you still think the president has that sway in this particular area as we speak?
I honestly feel that he does, because remember when the Jubilee began breaking up, there was a huge number of Central Kenya members of parliament who moved away and started supporting the deputy president. The number is dwindling right now. The number is basically dwindling right now. And the people know that, I mean, the people in Central Kenya will tell you that if you're not with the president at the moment, then we are not with you. Even if they are displeased at the moment, they generally enjoy the support of the president. It is the same way in which, it's the same way in which Raila Odinga is treated in his areas where he enjoys support. For example, look at the Kibra by-election that just ended. A lot of people had prophesied doom and the death of Raila Odinga's political career. But there was proof that regardless of what people feel about Raila, regardless of how much you will speak about him and against him, people will still support him in areas where he enjoys support. So for the Central Kenya region, I understand, and I'm not trying to downplay the kind of displeasure they do have. I'm not trying to downplay what they feel and generally how they feel that they are left out. But generally speaking, Central Kenya voters are not different from any voters in this in this country, and they will complain today about how the president has neglected them. But come tomorrow, if the president says, for example, if the president says that, okay, I am supporting William Ruto and I'm keeping our promise, they will all vote for William Ruto. If the president turns and says, this time round we are supporting Raila Odinga, trust me, they will all vote, not because they really support Raila Odinga, but because Uhuru Kenyatta has said, support Raila Odinga.
I'll be getting Dennis's rebuttal on this, because I can see him, just shaking his head with what Ruth has just said. But let me come to Nerima first on this and move away from the politics in that particular area and look at the ruling party that's supposed to be delivering this agenda in terms of, moving forward, the legacy. We have the big four that they should be bringing out, and that's a mechanism and the vehicle that should bring this to fruition. This would have been a golden opportunity for them to show we are very much together as deputy and president. We have come to this area as one. And what you've been hearing, the bickering, is just noise. Yeah. Did they lose a golden moment for them?
I believe they have lost a golden moment. But most importantly, it's for us to realize, when was the last time the president was in Murang'a? And it was during the funeral of John De Matthew. So he doesn't particularly talk about development or issues when he's within Murang'a County. And that's an issue, because people would want to know, what about coffee prices? Farmers would want to know, what about jobs, what about infrastructure? But we see our president avoiding the hard conversations and mainly attending social events. And this is a big slap in the face, considering that their agenda with the big four are completely about development and access to the basic needs of the people. So I do think that we are seeing that the house was already broken, it was already crumbling, and now we are seeing that there's no chance of even gluing it together with super glue. It is gone.
Is there any will?
It's gone.
In order, does somebody want to try and at least glue it together?
They are not appearing to want to try. So if both of them cancel their trips toward Murang'a County, and you would think that our president would be very concerned because that is considered his political base. So it means that it is his end of his time. He realizes that. He doesn't view it as politics anymore. He's not viewing himself as being on the ballot anymore. He's now going to consider supporting somebody else, perhaps the BBI, perhaps Raila. We don't know. Right. So you can see where his attention has gone. Okay. It's not his political base. Okay,
let's talk about what Ruth had raised earlier, that regardless of what we are seeing right now, if indeed the president decides to give direction in the way the constituents should go, he still has that sway. Dennis, you don't agree with that?
I don't agree with that. First of all, we need to kill the notion that because Central Kenya has produced 2 presidents, that it has enjoyed developments. It's completely inaccurate. Please tour Central Kenya, where we come from. And I think it's just a tragedy that perhaps they got to enjoy developments at last. Just don't go far. Just visit Gatundu and see the slums. Just go there and see the roads. Visit in Murang'a itself, by the way, that even the residents, even though it is the water bucket, perhaps of the nation, or Nairobi, they have issues with water. So it is completely untrue. We come from backgrounds that are coffee producing. Right now, people are plucking off the coffees and the tea. And I'm telling you, the poverty levels are incredulous. And even though we say that the founding fathers are basically, some of them are from that region, the point is that there's no land in Central Province. It's probably the most minute provinces ever, or whatever it is that there is. There are fundamental historical issues right in the backyard of the president. And it is accurate to say that. And these issues haven't been addressed for a long time. And that's the reason why you saw the resurgence and insurgency of groups like Mongiki, and that they formed initially as microeconomic groups, by the way, to empower the different, such as youth. Because it is true what she said, that there's a block of, a hegemony of all people basically who decide who becomes what. But they have been traditionally been detached from the realities on the ground. And that's the reason why you're seeing youthful MPs being punished right from the office of the president. So there is a dichotomy between the old and the new. And the traditional aspects have never been addressed.
But as Ruth had raised on that particular point, if today the president decided to go to Murang'a or Nyeri and told the people this is how we should go.
Why didn't this group, why wasn't there a crowd in this group? It is absolutely inaccurate. It is absolutely inaccurate. It is a lie and a fallacy of the highest order. The president himself, by the way, let me tell you what, if you have a patriarchal society in this nation, then we may arguably say it's a law, but the Kikuyus respect order. You understand? By the time you get into a village, by the time you get into a town, you have to agree with the people there. And I'm telling you the truth. The president cannot just come and tell people what it is that they want. When the leaders and the elders in the locality, forget about the ones who sit in high places, do not agree with him. And Central Province has felt that we have been neglected for far too long, because the Jomo presidency produced a few rich people, not everyone in Central Province. I come from a family that my grandfather fought for independence, yet he never got any land. You understand? So we know, because we've been born there and we've been birthed there at the end of the day. We know our people, we know the macroeconomic dynamics. Forget about what you read on media or whatever you see on TV. The fact is that there are fundamental problems that have never been addressed traditionally from a long time. And that's the reason why the president knows that the feeling of the ground is different, and he has to walk very carefully.
Okay, we're about to move on, but I want a rebuttal from Ruth before we do that.
I'd like to rebut in the sense that, we are not talking about a first-term president. We are talking about a president who was in power from 2013 to 2017. And between 2013 and 2017, he also did not do much for Central Kenya province, as he has admitted. Yet in 2017, when Central Kenya had the chance to vote for somebody totally different, who did not necessarily have to be Raila, they kumira'd and voted for Uhuru, not once. They voted for him twice. So what I'm trying to say is that I am not trying to downplay the kind of problems that Central Kenya has. But then again also, we cannot sit here and pretend that Central Kenya is suffering as much as the rest of the country is. When we talk about development, let us be honest with ourselves. Schools, hospitals, roads, infrastructure were first built in central Kenya. Had it not been for devolution, most of the rest of the country would not be seeing and enjoying.
Not the government.
Most of the rest of the country would not be enjoying the kind of development that we are enjoying right now. We would not be having road network. We would not be having hospitals. We would still be at the whims, you know, had it not been for devolution, we would still be literally begging the president and our legislators begging the president to develop our areas. The point is that voters are the same voters that voted, I mean, massively for, let's just call it Raila Odinga in the Kibra elections, despite people saying that this is going to be the end, are the same voters who, if today Uhuru Kenyatta even wakes up and says, we are voting for, if he says we are voting for Uhuru, I mean, for Mudavadi, they will vote for Mudavadi massively.
Okay, and of course, hopefully we might have Senator Akang'at to weigh in on this particular issue as well, probably later on in the show. We'll see what he has to say about that. But let's quickly move on before we take our fast break. I want quick comments on another story making the front page of the PD, and I'll come to Nerime on this. The ICPD and Nairobi Summit is supposed to be happening this week. Population meeting kicks off in city amid homosexuality row. Church leaders threatening to convene parallel summit. They're saying this particular issue is promoting norms that are going to be corrupting the youth and their morals right here. What's your take on this and the hard stance the church has taken on this particular summit, noting that this isn't the first time? It happened 25 years ago in Cairo, and it was talking about women and human rights and reproductive health, but it seems 25 years later the church feels that there's a different agenda on the continent.
Right, it's sexual reproductive health rights that the convening mainly talks about, which is also the conversation that we've been having with the CBC, whether we should have sex education in the curriculum or not. But this is the thing. We need to be frank and honest with ourselves. If we do not talk about it with our children, then who will? Where do we expect young people to learn about these things? Because they must. They get to a point where we cannot behave as though we are living in a world that does not interfere with what we believe in our ethos. It's about how do you groom a child to be able to understand what's right. Because these are the options that we have. If you're not going to teach your child the right thing, then they will find out where to get the information from somewhere else, which might not necessarily be correct.
Right.
And that's the conversation about ICPD. Because we're also talking about female genital mutilation. We're also talking about child marriages, which back then people were getting married at the age of 11 or 12. And that was considered common and natural. But now we've changed that. We should have, but there are still some communities in our country where teenage girls are married off due to poverty and are mothers by the time that they're 15 years of age. Right. And so those are the conversations that are being had, but unfortunately, a lot of times, what is often highlighted is homosexuality.
And of course, I'll be talking about this in plenty more. I'll get Dennis and Ruth's take on this particular issue as well, as the church digs deep on this particular issue as well. Also, we're going to have Anil Maliba also joining us on the show later on to look at these particular stories. We're going to take a short break, back onto the side, talking about the church's stance as far as the Nairobi summit of the ICPD is concerned. Also, Ruto and Raila's war of words over what happened in the Kibra's by-election, bedroom being the talk of the weekend. That and plenty more after the break.